Hey look, it's another one where I talk. If you're hoping for another Warhammer video, I'm sorry, this isn't it. I'll make another one soon, it was fun to make. But in the meantime, might I interest you in this? In the Viva Pinata video, I passively mentioned that the game really clicked with, quote, my strain of the tism. By that I meant I both regularly embarrass myself in social situations, and I have a habit of becoming obsessive with specific topics, visuals, or themes. Viva clicked with my fascination with fictitious ecosystems that I developed after my exposure to Pikmin, when I was just a babblet. And thinking about it, most of the stuff I get weirdly obsessive over was introduced to me through this dopey kids game. Back when Nintendo was developing the GameCube, a Nintendoid had an epiphany. People liked games that had a Mario in them, so it would stand to reason that people would really like games that had many Marios in them. At Space World 2000, Mario 128 was revealed. A game in which 128 little Marios farted around on a pizza. The crowd hated it. Only moments after the reveal started, the stage was rushed by the audience. Every one of the Mario-lings was massacred. But the carnage inspired Miyamoto. He would later write in his password journal, next year Pikmin release on
what I like to call the Nintendo shit cube.
And I fell in love with it. Look at these goofy little clay figures I made when I was like 7. I was trying to ape the marketing material where they'd have clay figures in natural landscapes. Pikmin's a game about a tiny 1-inch tall spaceman who crashes onto a mysterious planet and befriends a race of little carrot people he names Pikmin, after his favorite brand of carrot. The red are fireproof and do extra damage. The yellow fly higher when thrown and can carry bombs. The blue ones can swim, and they can also save drowning Pikmin. The goal of the game is to repair Olimar's ship before his life support runs out in 30 days. Each day lasts roughly 13 minutes, during which you have to do your best to make as much progress as possible. Nightfall, you and the Pikmin get into your ships and fly into low orbit to avoid the vicious nocturnal life.
I'll get you, bitch!
Any Pikmin left on the planet will be lost. You make progress by commanding around a little army of Pikmin that you cultivate through collecting pellets and defeated enemy bodies. Use the Pikmin to fight, solve puzzles, and collect 30 ship pieces scattered around the world. Pikmin 2 introduces a second spaceman to control at the same time. 2 new kinds of Pikmin, tightens up the controls significantly, but it does get rid of the day limit, which I have some opinions on. I never actually got a Wii U, so I haven't played Pikmin 3. From the outside looking in, it seems pretty great. The visual style is beautiful and fitting. The Ju system makes for more player agency with the returning day limit, and the Pikmin designs are, never mind, it's bad. So what parts of the silly baby game series turned me into the shovel goon with trash opinions I am today? I've attempted to identify the 3 central themes the game got me hooked on, and some other games that scratched the itches that Pikmin gave me.
Is that a lot? I think it is.
Most of the time when you mess up in a video game, you just get sent back a few minutes and try again. It always feels real lousy to me. Like there wasn't enough consideration put into what happens when you suck and bite it. They have this great game with a bunch of cool mechanics like Doom, but when you run out of health, the game just stops, rewinds, and you have to do it again, but don't suck this time. In Pikmin, running out of health makes you lose the rest of the day and all the Pikmin you had with you at the time. You've got a limited amount of days to work with, and losing Pikmin too often puts you in a situation where you have to spend some of your limited time getting more troops before you can get back to repairing the ship. If you waste too much time and fail to repair the ship, Olimar won't be able to escape the planet, suffocate, and get decapitated in an attempt to reanimate his corpse. This was brand new to me. A game where you could actually lose. Like not just a temporary game over, but like Mario getting to Peach and Bowser, and they already started a family and have a dog. The possibility of failure added so much novelty to the game. It took this otherwise silly looking game and gave it stakes. It's so much easier to become invested in something when there's stuff on the line. In this case, your save file. It was novel enough to leave a huge impression on me. Years later, when Team Fortress 2 was having a Christmas event, I made a power move. Purchased page upon page of festive weapons for a reclaimed metal each. It's like 23 cents at the time. I held on to them till the next Christmas, so an entire year. I was able to offload them for 120 bucks or so. Team Fortress 2 keys. I used my haul to buy 2 Steam games. Skyrim and XCOM Enemy Unknown. I'd played Skyrim before, so I knew what I was getting myself into. But XCOM was totally new to me. As I familiarized myself with the game, something happened. Between permanent deaths of troops, and the potential of losing the game entirely if you failed to manage the global panic levels, I was getting deja vu. It was like something deep inside my psyche was being reawakened, like a sleeper agent. But instead of overthrowing the government, I just played games for children. Suddenly I realized I had things I liked and opinions about video games. Skyrim sucks, and if you like it, you suck. I want games with consequences and stakes. I screw up a line in Tetris, I wanted to break my fingers and kill my cat. It's not my fault I'm like this. Little colorful men grew me to have these opinions.
Simulations.
I don't mean to alarm you. Video games are fake. Freddy Fazbear Pizza isn't real. There's no such thing as Ratman. And food comes from the store. It costs money. This doesn't grow on trees, dummy. Games have to trick you into thinking they're actually happening, and some of them are better at it than others. To sell you on the idea that you're exploring a small part of a real world, Pikmin ties a lot of little things to the passage of time. Pellet plants. They give you an easy source of Pikmin, start out as little sprouts at the start of a day, and throughout the day, will slowly grow and ripen. When Pikmin are first spawned, they start out as seeds that quickly grow into sprout Pikmin that can be plucked. If you leave them for a time, they'll eventually grow up into being flower Pikmin before you even pluck them. When enemies die, they'll take a few days to respawn instead of coming back the next day, which makes it seem more like there's new enemies coming in to fill their place rather than the one you just killed coming back to life. Certain enemies will only show up on specific days and in specific spots, like the Gulix and the... This also contributes to the vibe of them being real creatures moving around the world instead of being static enemies in a video game level. Another method to make the world seem real is having creatures do things that don't directly involve the player. After a bridge has been built and sits for a few days, these little termites will come up and chew at it, which will deconstruct it. There's a creature called a bread bug who trolls around for food. He doesn't directly attack Pikmin and instead looks for pellets and dead enemies to drag back to his lair. The different mechanics showing the passage of time, the implications that the creatures are moving around and migrating, and the various interactions that don't directly involve the player all come together to create this feeling of being a visitor in a real world that's indifferent to you, rather than the reality of you being a user of a software whose sole purpose is to entertain you. Middle-earth Shadow of War is a guilty pleasure of mine. It has its flaws, but I still love it. Specifically, the Nemesis system is one of the most fun game systems I've ever touched. It was so good, XCOM 2 just stole it. It works great. More people steal it, please. The system generates orc captains, giving them strengths, weaknesses, and a personality. As in-game time passes, they train and infight with each other. Dead captains get replaced with new ones, and each action makes them stronger, assuming it doesn't kill them. You're able to mess with the orcs by interrupting the various events that occur, but the absolute best part of the game is that you get to brainwash them to fight for you.
Pretty sissies submit themselves to me, and you are a pretty sissy.
I am honored to be chosen!
It almost feels like Pikmin at times, except the Pikmin are ugly so you don't care when they die. That's actually a little funny. Once you get in control of a captain, you can command him to attack other orc captains to make yours stronger, as long as they don't fail and get offed. The game also punishes your deaths in a fun way. If you die, whatever orc killed you gets promoted to captain, or gains levels if they already were a captain. Then time passes and you come back to life. It's a fun way to mix death into the mechanics of a goofy orc simulation. Hey, Warner Brother Games is for sale. Somebody buy Monolith. Take the narrative elements out because they're lame, and just make a super over-the-top spin-off game where the monsters can have Nemesis system attributes too. And you get to form a giant army of colorful orcs and monsters to go fight massive castles or something. I just really love playing with the system. I want to see it expanded.
For me, nature's one of the neatest things on this planet.
One of my absolute favorite parts of Pikmin is the setting. It combines this brutal, hostile ecosystem where you're the bottom of the food chain, with cute mascot characters. It's like watching a guy in a Pikachu costume get swept away by a giant hawk. The fact that making a mistake means you have to see these cute little creatures being eaten or crushed makes every encounter much more tense. Sure, losing 3 Pikmin won't be a game over, but hearing their little death cries followed by their disembodied souls leaving this mortal plane, and knowing it's all your fault for not being a rad enough gamer really hurts. The game plays around with the wildlife theme in some non-threatening ways too. Pikmin power up and get flowers by drinking nectar. Being shaken off enemies a few times degrade their flowers back down to being the weaker leaves, and then they'll need to feed again. Kinda mirrors an animal getting fatigued and needing to eat again like in real life. The Pikmin drinking nectar as a food source also establishes them as active participants in the food chain, instead of just being abstract cartoon characters that get eaten by other cartoon characters. It's a nice touch! Other creatures like the honey wisp and flint beetles are also said to use the nectar as a food source. And in-game, if you hit them with Pikmin, they drop nectar for you. It mirrors a real-life ecosystem, where tons of different species compete for the same food source, also creating a fun way to distribute power-ups for the player, like how our bird feeder is supposed to just feed birds. But every animal known to man is out in our backyard fighting over it, and also the bird feeder gives you quad damage. Pikmin 2 also introduces some cool things that play into the nature setting too. It added a lot of variants of already existing enemies, which not only lets them reuse assets to make more content for the game, it also plays into how real animals evolve to suit different environments. So you end up with tons of little variants of the same species. There's all kinds of bulborbs now. Fuzzy ones, baby ones, spooky ones, pregnant ones, cordycepses ones, melting ones. One of my absolute favorite parts of Pikmin 2 is the Picklepedia. It's an in-game wiki for all the creatures, plants, and treasure. Olimar gives every creature's scientific name, groups them in a family, and then writes a brief, academic-sounding description of them. It's the SCP phenomenon. In the same way that academic descriptions can make a penis-eating sock scary, they also make silly cartoon creatures seem like interesting and fleshed-out life forms. To top it off, once you 100% the game, you get Louie's descriptions of how to cook the creatures into dishes. Most of his recipes are fairly specific and actually sound pretty appetizing, but some are outlandish like this one. Inedible. Tastes like chicken. In conclusion, if you tell me how your character tastes, I am much more likely to believe it's real. Last year I discovered a game that hit all the same mental taste buds Pikmin hit for me, even ones I didn't mention in this video. Finding this game felt better than getting a long-lost Pikmin sequel. It was like getting to experience the very first Pikmin again for the very first time. I say this despite the game being in a totally different genre and taking place in a totally different dimension. I'm talking about Rainworld, 2D survival platformer, where you play as a little slug cat monkey steamboat willy hybrid named Slugcat. It takes place in the overgrown ruins of a fallen civilization, now teeming with weird wildlife. One of the defining traits of the ecosystem is it gets regularly pulverized with lethal rain. Everything caught in the rain is either crushed or drowned. To survive, the creatures of the rain world have adapted to cycles of frequent hibernation in underground chambers during the downpour, and emerging to stuff their faces in the dry spells. It's like an alternative reality, where after flooding the earth, instead of promising Noah he wouldn't do it again, God thought it was pretty funny and just kept doing it. The cycles in game function similar to days in Pikmin. Each cycle you emerge from your slug hole to scrounge around for food like moths and blue orb. Not the only one on the hunt though. Other creatures are out foraging as well. Some of them go after the same food as you, and some of them go after you as food. Something you may notice about the creatures in game is despite being two-dimensional cartoon monsters, they look and behave like real living organisms. People claim this was done through a technique called procedural animation. The theory is that instead of the characters sliding from one point to another while a walking animation plays, in Rainworld, creatures utilize locomotion algorithms to manipulate their digital bodies to navigate terrain, which should explain why they were able to create convincing movements for monsters like the vulture, who usually flies, but if needed can use its wings like legs to crawl around. Oh, doesn't it just trigger your fight or flight? I have on pretty good authority they actually achieved these realistic movements by utilizing black magic to damn the souls of various small critters into their stupid Mario clone. They haven't been able to add more content in a while because the local pet stores refuse to do business with them anymore after learning about it. Lizards are the bulborbs of Rainworld. Like bulborbs, they act as the primary enemy type, and they're everywhere. Also like bulborbs, there's a number of different subspecies throughout the world. Unlike bulborbs, however, lizards have a great range of interspecies variety. Every red bulborb uses the same model and looks identical, and pretty standard video game stuff. But lizards have all sorts of different little visual traits like bumps, frills, and markings that are unique to each individual lizard. Most of the creatures on game have some form of this interspecies variety applied to them. You're presented a lot of ways to approach creature encounters in Rainworld. You can sneak past them, outmaneuver them, exploit the food chain, appease them, or fight them. Slugcat's only attack is tossed stuff, usually spears. Despite this, the game's skill ceiling is crazy high, and the gap between new players and experts is comparable to Devil May Cry. I mean this totally sincerely too. Along with a lot of unexplained movement tricks Slugcat can perform,
Do a flip!
actually nailing a creature with a good spear shot can be a bit of a task. You can't really aim where you want to throw them, you just lob them the direction you're looking. When you compact this with the fact the creatures either tend to be blisteringly fast or armored in a lot of places, getting the hang of combat can be pretty taxing. If you hang in there, it gets easier. It feels very rewarding to learn. Also, there's explosives that'll make quick work of enemies. Good luck finding them. If you do, be careful with them. They're pretty...
Skip it up and that up.
Also, in the same way creatures move believably, they also die realistically. Wounded enemies are slower and they stumble around while trying to climb. Near-death enemies are reduced to piles of twitching, seizing limbs. It's equal parts neat, horrifying. At the end of every cycle, the aforementioned rain devastates the map. The only way to survive is taking refuge in a shelter. If you ate enough food in the previous cycle, your progress will be saved. If you don't have enough food, you won't get a checkpoint and be starved the next cycle. When starved, you'll need more food to save, randomly pass out. Surviving cycles raises your karma. Dying lowers it. It operates on some kind of European measurement system, so it starts upside down 2 and counts up to Isaac Clarke face. It can be weird knowing what karma actually does for you since it's not obvious, but primarily it'll just lock you out of certain areas until you reach a certain karma level, which really won't take very long if you just stop dying. Usually, if you need a high karma level to enter an area, it means the area is going to be really rough on you, so they want to keep you out so you don't enter, get the crap beat out of you, and rage quit. Unlike Pikmin, there's no obvious goal like repairing your ship, so it can be a little confusing to what you're supposed to do. There's these little eyeball helpers that direct you into some neat bits of the game, and the game does have an ending, but since there's no day limit or anything, you're free to just explore the world, discover stuff, and do your best to survive. Brain World is great, touched me in all the ways Pikmin did despite being a 2D platformer. I guess what I'm really trying to say is Rain World is the Dark Soul of Hey Pikmin likes.